Figuring out what kind of rehab exercises or home care that you should be doing can feel very overwhelming. It's very common to go somewhere and get 5 or 6 exercises that you're supposed to do every day, or you find something interesting online, or you see a new exercise on Instagram and you're like, oh, I have that. I want to try that. In today's video, I want to talk to you about one of the most important things to consider, to think about, and to be judging your self care, home care, rehab exercises on before you start to do them so that you can be as effective as possible and so that you can do the least amount of effort as possible to get the best benefit. So, hi, if you're new to the channel, my name is Catherine. I'm the founder and principal therapist at LSM Clinic, a sport and remedial massage therapy clinic in East London. And in this channel, I share information about how the body works and ways that you can take care of yourself. So, hopefully, you can enjoy as much of your life pain-free or as close to it as possible. And if you are returning, welcome back. It's always great to see people come back. So in February, I want to be talking about self-care because February have Valentine's Day in it, and Valentine's Day is about love, and we can love ourselves, right? We can take care of ourselves. But it can be really overwhelming to try and figure out what's the best thing to do? What is the right exercise to do? How do you know how often to do it? All of this stuff. And all of that's really important. And I have so much stuff about self-care, like exercises and home care and how to fit it into your life on this page. I will put a link below in the description with other self-care videos, including like how to keep your self-care, home care exercises to 5 to 10 minutes a day. Now, just a side note, when I say self-care, I am talking about the specific home care exercises that you're doing for taking care of your body, especially if you have like a specific ache or pain. I'm not talking about the other types of self-care there are, which is like rest, although that can be something for this. Um, Facials, doing things that you enjoy, the 7 different types of rest, right? Um, People might call them rehab exercises, but the reason that I don't like to call them rehab exercises is because you're not always doing them after an injury. You're just doing them to maintain a level of freedom of movement in your body and lightness and hopefully lack of pain on a regular maintenance basis. So, what is this one most important thing? You want to try and figure out what is the center of your onion. Now, I do have the onion analogy video, which is an older one, but I'll link it below. And what I mean by this is usually, and I'm sure we've all had this experience, right? Where one thing starts hurting and then something else starts compensating. So that thing starts hurting. And then something else is compensating. So that thing starts hurting. Well, what can actually happen and what we often find is that the very center of that onion, where things are layering on top and compensating, is not a place where you have any symptoms. So, an example of this, a really good example of this, is neck and shoulder pain. I'll do one for neck and shoulder, and I'll do knees and lower back. When you have neck and shoulder pain, almost always you have some tension across the chest or in the lats that's pulling you down. You may have some tension in the neck, in the front of the neck, not the back of the neck, kind of pulling you forward. And so then this happens, and then your head is pushed forward. The tops of your shoulders have to work harder. Your shoulders are rounded, between your shoulder blades has to work harder. Because the shoulders are forward, the rotator cuffs have to work harder. So then you might get a pinch in your shoulder. You might get pain on the top of the shoulders. You might get discomfort between the shoulder blades. You might get problems in the back of the neck. You might start getting headaches. Headaches is like a whole other ballgame of stuff, but this is just an example, like one part of it. Now, if you had all of those symptoms, you could absolutely stretch your neck, stretch the tops of the shoulders, stretch your upper back, and that would give you some temporary relief. But because those are the outer layers of the onion, you're not actually addressing what is causing all of this compensation to happen, which is this forward position. So if you can figure out what the center of your onion is and do a stretch or exercise for that specific thing, then you will reduce or eliminate the need for anything else, right? If your head isn't so far forward all the time, if your shoulders aren't rounded for so far forward all the time, then you're not going to get the tension here. You're not going to get the tension here. You're not going to get the pain from that, right? So the center of the onion, and this is why we have a desk work from home posture workshop that takes you through a simple stretch and an easy way to start improving your posture. And that's because that's the center of that onion. If you get your shoulders in a better position and your head over your shoulders in a way that feels really comfortable, right? I never want you to be compensating to the point where, oh, this hurts so much. This is so uncomfortable. Then all of this stuff will often resolve itself or need much less input. The other problem with doing exercises at the outside of the onion is that because they're all compensating for something, they will relax a bit. That actually makes the imbalance worse, right? So if these are tight because they're trying to stop your head from going forward and you release these, but you don't release this relative to this is tighter, right? Because you've made this looser. So the tightness might not change, but this looseness changed. So the relationship gets so that this is tighter compared to what this was or is now. So what can happen is you'll get a little bit of relief, but because the body realizes it still has to compensate for that imbalance, it will tighten up again. And sometimes it will tighten up worse. And then what we've even seen is that sometimes it stops responding at all, which I think I have a video about, but I will check on that one. If I have it, I'll put it below. Something like why your body stops responding to massage or stretching, I think. So in this example, the center of the onion is opening up the chest, or it might be the lats. And so you do have to identify what the center of your onion is. It could also be your breathing. If you're not breathing with your diaphragm, if you're breathing with your neck muscles, they can pull your head forward. Another example is tight hamstrings, lower back pain, knee pain. Now, lower back pain often comes from lower abdominals not activating or from the hip flexors. Or the glutes not activating. Knee pain often comes from the quads overworking or the IT band overworking because the glutes aren't doing what they're supposed to in that movement pattern. So in those examples, it's not a stretch that's the center of the onion, it's an activation. It's getting those muscles, that mind-muscle connection to improve and to teach your brain to use those muscles when you're doing them. So that might be lower abdominal activation, that might be glute activation. We have a glute activation playlist on this channel. If you want to learn more about glute activation and how it connects to everything, we have a video about lower abdominal activation and how it can relate to lower back pain. So in those cases, you can stretch your lower back. You can stretch your piriformis because your piriformis might be pulling on your back. You can stretch your hamstrings. You can foam roll your IT band. You can try to do quad stretches. But none of those are going to have a long-lasting effect because they're the outer layers of the onion. So I think you can see what I'm getting at. So how do you do this, right? So the question is, okay, I need to find the center of my onion. How do I do that? Well, that's what most of my channel is about. It's about explaining the relationships between things and how one thing goes on another so that you can figure out, okay, how do I assess this? Now, it can be very difficult to assess this if you're not used to it. So absolutely, you can go and see someone who works in this kind of biomechanical way. Obviously, if you're in East London, we'd love to see you. And we can do an assessment and we can say, like, this is what we see, and this is what we're going to do. And then we release some muscles and then we see if it makes a difference. And then that's how we figure out the center of your onion. And then we give you your specific stretch or exercise that we think is going to be the most impactful. So once you've assessed what your center of the onion is and the self-care exercise you need to address that central cause or as close into the center as you can get, then what do you do? Well, that's why testing is so important. You want to consistently do this self-care exercise, either every day or every other day, kind of depending on what it is and how much it affects the body and how much the body needs to integrate. Test before and after you do it to see if it makes a difference on the other issues that you have, and give it at least like 5 times of doing this and doing it well. That's the other thing. You have to do it correctly because somebody might think they're activating their glutes and actually their glutes aren't contracting. It's another muscle. Or they might think they're stretching their chest, but they're actually stretching it so hard that they're overstretching and it gets too tight. You can learn more about overstretching and gentle stretching in my stretching playlist. So that's basically it. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. If you have any questions about this, let me know. But that is the one thing that you want to do when you're putting together your own home care exercise plan is figuring out what is your center of the onion and then doing something that addresses that. It's going to take you less time. It's going to be more effective in the long run, and it will help all of the other outer layers. All right. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you liked it. If you share it with somebody who you think could use some information about how they structure their rehab stuff or who might find it interesting. And if you subscribe, you'll be notified when we release more videos. And if you'd like to know when we release more videos, in the description below, I'm going to share our subscription link. Oh, I think I've been talking too much today. So I'm going to finish. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye.